ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول كل بدعة ضلالة.
Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, who died in the year 463 after the Hijrah, he cited his chain of narration to the companion Imran bin Hussein radiyallahu anhu, that a man came to him and asked him a question about an issue. So Imran radiyallahu anhu, the companion, he narrated to him a hadith in answer. The man said to him, narrate the book of Allah and don't narrate from anywhere else. So Imran bin Hussein radiyallahu anhu said, you are a ahmaq. He said, you're a fool. Do you find in the book of Allah that dhuhr is 4 rak'ahs and that it is recited quietly? And then he continued mentioning more and more things about the prayer, about the zakat and so on. He said, do you find these detailed in the book of Allah? The book of Allah mentions these affairs in generalities, and the Sunnah explains them in detail. So to achieve the aid of Allah, this is what we have to do. Cling to the Kitab and Sunnah. Addu alayha bin nawajid, as the Prophet ﷺ said, bite onto it with your molar teeth. Imam Shatibi rahimahullah cited a narration from the great tabi'i Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, who died in the year 181 rahimahullah, that Ibn al-Mubarak, he said, we were in Kufa and they debated me concerning the consumption of nabidh that has become alcoholic, it has become intoxicating, and the different views surrounding it. So the people gathered around him. He's the imam, he's the sheikh, he's the scholar. So the people gathered around him, meaning the students of knowledge and the sheikhs, they gathered around him and they started debating with him over its permissibility. And he said it is haram. And he quoted the narrations. So he said, after that, there did not remain in the hand of a single one of them who was debating me anything except one narration from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And there was no proof for them even in that, showing the permissibility of nabidh with anything that they could establish from him that was sahih, that was authentic. So then when their arguments ran out, this is what they said. He said, then a person from among them said to Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, Oh Abu Abdurrahman, so are you saying that An-Nakha'i and Ash-Sha'bi and so and so and so and so, that they were drinking haram? That became their argument. No hadith. He's given them the hadith of nabidh, prohibition. Once it becomes intoxicated, the Prophet ﷺ used to command that it's poured out, it's thrown away. So this is dates soaked in water. So he used to drink for one day, drink for another day, then he used to command that they be poured out of fear that they'll become intoxicated, meaning that it'll become alcohol. The alcohol will ferment into it, or it'll become alcoholic. So when Abdullah ibn Mubarak, this great imam, defeated them with the narration after narration, and whatever they brought, they had nothing except one narration from Ibn Mas'ud, which he told them and showed them that it was da'if. It's not authentic. So what did they do? What about An-Nakha'i? What about Ash-Sha'bi? What about so-and-so scholar? What about so-and-so scholar? Were they all drinking haram then? Listen to the answer of Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak. He said, leave off the naming of men as evidence. A man may hold a noble station in Islam, and perhaps he makes a mistake. So is it allowed for anyone to use that as a proof? He has a noble station. Nakha'i, imam, scholar. Sha'bi, imam, scholar. So leave off naming these noble men as your evidence. Perhaps he has this noble station, but perhaps he made a mistake. So is it allowed to use as a proof? And if you refuse to accept that, let me ask you, he said, what do you say about Ata? What do you say about Tawus? What do you say about Jabir bin Zayd? What do you say about Sa'id ibn Jubair? And what do you say about Ikrimah? Look who he's naming. Great scholars amongst the Tabi'een. He said, what do you say about these scholars? They said these were great and fine men. So Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, he said, and what do you say about the hand-to-hand exchange of 1 dirham, 1 silver coin, for 2 silver coins? What do you say about that? What do you say? Riba. Right? I can't. If I have 1 silver coin, 3 grams. You have 2 silver coins, 3 grams. And I say, give me 2 for my 1. Halal or haram transaction? Haram. So he said to them, after naming these scholars, Ata, Tawus, Jabir bin Zayd, Sa'id ibn Jubair, Ikrimah, he said, what do you say about these scholars? They said they were great scholars, fine men. So he said to them, and what do you say about hand-to-hand exchange of 1 dirham for 2 dirhams? They said, that's haram, that's riba. So he said, they took the view that it is allowed. So did they die whilst consuming haram? Because you've just said it is riba, it is haram. These scholars, their opinion or their ijtihad is that it is allowed. So did they die whilst consuming haram? Just as you're saying to me about Sha'bi, just as you're saying to me about Nakha'i, did they drink haram? So did these scholars consume haram by allowing the exchange of 1 dirham for 2 dirhams? And they were confounded. They could not answer him. This is the same argument we use today. This is the same argument we use today. Don't bring me the name of men as evidence. Not in fiqh and not in usul, not in any affair. That is not evidence. You can say Bin Baz said, Ibn Uthaymeen said, Rabi said, Muqbil said, Al-Albani said, no problem. You can even hold on to it. That's not an issue. Because they are our mashayikh, they are our ulama. But what is the tarbiyah of these ulama? We went to see Sheikh Rabi', just as an anecdote. Must have been about 2001 or 2002. So the Sheikh said, how are the affairs in Britain? We said, MashaAllah, Sheikh, they're good. Alhamdulillah, ya Sheikh, the brothers are with you in the issue of Al-Ma'rabi, Abu al-Hassan. He said, La, you are not with Rabi'. Be with the haqq. He said, did you read the refutations? I think Hassan al-Somali was with me and 1 or 2 other brothers, maybe Abu Talha. We were there together. He said, did you read the refutations? We said, yes, ya Sheikh. Then say that we are with the adillah. Say that we are with the truth. This is Sheikh Rabi'. He wants you to follow the evidence wherever it leads you. That's the way of Bin Baz. That's the way of Al-Fawzan. That's the way of Al-Albani. That's the way of our scholars, Al-Sa'di, Ibn Uthaymeen, Muqbil, Ahmed al-Najmi, Zayd al-Madkhali, Muhammad Aman Jami. That's their way. It is about that. And that's the way of Ibn Mubarak. That's the way of Ibn Abbas. That's the way of Ubadah ibn Samit. That's their way. That's the madhab Ahlul Hadith. Heavens and earth difference between that and between the blind following mutahazzibin, the people of tahazzub and hizbiyah. Heavens and earth, between the distance between the east and the west, between just the orientation, just how you're looking at the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I say this in every affair. In every affair. In the way that you cut your hair, in the way that you wear your garments, in the hijab of the Muslim woman, in the beard of the Muslim man, in the rebellion against the rulers, in the marching in the streets. Let's say, tomorrow you find a scholar who said, well, I don't see anything wrong, really, with mudaharat. marching in the streets. Because that's an argument today that some of the people use. Well, there's a scholar from Ahlus Sunnah who said that he doesn't see anything wrong with, in certain situations, mudaharat, demonstrations. Are you going to take that and come to me with that? And I'm going to start trembling and say, oh, mashallah, I don't know, what am I going to do with this? Where's your proof that this is a means of rectification? Because this is now an affair that you are using as deen to rectify the affairs of the ummah. To rectify the affairs of the ummah, you need a text. And that's why Imam Malik said what he said, that the latter part of this ummah will not be rectified except that which rectified its first part. So where did these mudaharat come from? Leave off. Remember that statement of Ibn Mubarak. Memorize it. Leave off the naming of men as proof. Don't do that. Because they said, are you saying that An-Nakha'i and a Sha'bi from the Tabi'een were drinking haram because they allowed the drinking of Nabidh? He said, leave that off. In a narration, he said, Ya ahmaq. He said, oh fool, stop using the names of men as evidence in the deen. Look at the narration of Ibn Abbas. Stones will fall down upon your head. I'm asking you for evidence. You're quoting Sheikh Fulan and Sheikh Fulan. Evidence. That's how we defeat the opponents of the people of Sunnah.